I'm wondering what your stance are on abortion and how you respond to the Thompson violinist case.
The second part, I'm sorry?
The Thompson violinist case?
Oh, yeah, I've heard it. I mean, happy to
sure
go through it again. But yes, under the hypothetical that will never happen, I'm happy to...
That's what thought experiments are for.
Right. I mean, but I don't need a thought experiment when it comes to abortion. But you want to tell people what the violinist abstraction is?
I'd be happy to. So tomorrow morning, as will probably happen, you're going to wake up in your hotel room. I'm going to be right next to you in bed, and you're going to be hooked up to me. My blood is going to be going into your kidneys and then back into my body, and that's going to be necessary for me to survive. If you unplug me, I die.
For how long?
For 9 months.
Okay.
9 years.
So again, to play this out, again, how did it happen though?
Oh, it was against their will.
Oh, really? So rape?
Sure.
Okay, so that's only less than 1% of all abortions. So the thought experiment doesn't apply to the other 99% of abortions where it's consensual sex. Do you agree?
Okay.
So the thought experiment is on the fringe of any applicability, but under that thought experiment and that abstraction, yes, to be consistent, to save a life, I personally would give part of my kidney to save somebody's life for 9 months. Yes.
You couldn't leave the bed for 9 months.
Well, pregnant women are not bedridden.
Some are.
Very rarely. So I don't know what you're talking about. I mean,
right,
if you go into preterm labor around like 25 or 26 weeks, maybe with like magnesium treatment, you go to bed rest for 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, sure.
Are you familiar with that?
It's not a perfect analogy, but
it's not a good analogy at all. But
it's a pretty good one.
So let me ask you a question. When does life begin?
Why is that? That's impossible to define. It's impossible to define. I think so. Life is very abstract.
Are you alive?
I'd like to think so.
Okay. Are the people around you alive?
As far as I know.
Okay. What gives you that belief?
Intuition.
Intuition, not the fact that they're breathing, or we could take their pulse rate, or their heart is working, they have brain waves, consciousness.
We can go all the way to idealism. Like, what if you can't know anything for sure? Okay. Can I ask you this?
You're way overthinking it. Let me be honest.
Maybe I am.
I think so. But
do you think if somebody, not you, hooked themselves up to someone in bed, said they were going to commit to the 9 months, do you think they had the ability to?
People do that all the time. It's called being a kidney donor.
It's so different.
Millions of people give away kidneys, livers, all the time for people that need it. Strangers, in fact.
Do you think they're morally obligated to do so?
Let me give you another example. If you're stranded on an island, and one of your organs that you personally do not need to survive could help that other person on the island you're with, 2 people on an island, you are morally obligated to give one of those organs to that person so that they could survive. Otherwise, it would be at least manslaughter, at worst murder. Yes.
Okay. Well, I think it's just a difference of opinion at that point. I think you'd be a very, very good person to do so. Maybe even just
okay. So we agree. So there's a morality. So we have now built a good in sacrificing something you might not need but can inconvenience you to help somebody else. So therefore, is the inverse bad? If it's good to sacrifice part of what you don't need to help somebody else, is it therefore bad not to do that thing?
I think you have a right to your own stuff. Like you were saying with socialism, you have a right to your own stuff, and if you give it to help somebody, you're a very nice person for doing so, but I don't think you're morally obligated.
Well, you said good before. Nice and good are 2 different words. That's okay, though. But so if you have, let me ask you another question. It's just another hypothetical. You happen to be in a deserted town. Somebody's starving to death. They haven't eaten for 30 days. You happen to have, 2 Big Macs. You really want them both, and that Big Mac will save their life. If you don't give that Big Mac and they starve to death, what kind of a person are you?
Kind of a shitty person.
So how is that any different than somebody saying, hey, a woman saying, I'm pregnant, it's not what I wanted. I might have to go through 9 months that might not be the easiest 9 months of my life, but another human being gets to enjoy the beauty of life.
I think it can be an act without doing anything morally wrong. Does that make sense? And at this point, I think we just differ.
Yeah, I mean, being a jerk and being evil are 2 different things. I would agree. But terminating a baby is not being a jerk.
Fetus.
So what does fetus mean in Latin?
I don't speak Latin.
Yeah, little human. Oh. So the little human.
What does it mean in English?
What does fetus mean in?
What does it mean in English?
Yeah, little human.
Unborn baby.
Right. So the reason people use fetus because it makes themselves feel good.
Okay.
Because they don't want to use the word baby because they want to try to cloak the horror of abortion. So they say, oh, it's a fetus, as if it's like a rhinoceros or if it's like a giraffe. No, it's the same species. It's a human. It's just not as big as you are or as advanced as you are, so it feels better to be able to terminate that being. But I could see you're coming after this in a good way. If I were to ask you a question, should we try to limit suffering on Earth?
Obviously.
Okay. So if I tell you that the majority of abortions that occur, the baby feels pain, should we probably stop doing that?
Well, it's not that simple, obviously. You're making it simple because obviously giving birth causes a lot of pain too. And if you try to.
No, I'm making the complex simple because it's actually not that complex.
Okay.
Here's what college does: is it makes the very simple moral questions so complex that you have to keep on borrowing money you don't have to keep on getting these degrees to overthink good and evil that somebody on the side of the street can easily say murder is wrong. It doesn't take that much like deep and profound thinking.
I wasn't overcomplicating it. I was bringing up the reality that someone who gives birth goes through pain. And
Well,
you went on a tangential speech about college, which had nothing to do with what we're talking about.
They do go through pain, but it's, thanks to modern medicine, it's not as much pain as it used to be. So you can get an epidural. It's also 1 out of 3 of births in this country are done by cesarean section. So good. Thank you. Any other questions or?
Do you want to fry?
No, I'm good. Thank you.